I never thought I'd be in this position at 30 years old. My name is Ryan, and what started as an act of generosity toward my family turned into a painful lesson about boundaries and respect. After my parents, Greg and Linda, retired from their careers as high school counselors, they wanted to move from their quiet suburban home to experience city life. They claimed they were tired of the peaceful neighborhood and wanted to be closer to the excitement and energy of downtown. I was doing well as a software developer, earning a comfortable six-figure salary, so I offered to help. Not just help, I bought a 3-bedroom house and invited them to live with me, rent-free. I covered the mortgage, utilities, groceries, everything. Before we continue with today's story, if you're enjoying what you've heard so far, please hit that subscribe button. Every new subscriber helps me keep sharing these inspiring tales that touch your day. Thank you for your support. The arrangement worked beautifully at first. The house wasn't enormous, but it was spacious enough for the 3 of us. I claimed the master bedroom with its private bathroom and walk-in closet, converted the second bedroom into my home office since I work remotely about 80% of the time, and the third bedroom became a guest room. I set up my workspace exactly how I wanted it. Dual monitors, ergonomic chair, the whole setup. My parents seemed happy, and I was glad to give back after all they'd done for me growing up. We fell into a comfortable routine. I did my job, paid the bills, and helped keep the house clean, while my parents gardened, watched TV, and enjoyed their retirement activities. Their pension income was modest, but I didn't mind covering our expenses. After all, you don't charge family rent, right? Then everything changed one morning over coffee. Your sister Megan and her husband Jack are thinking about moving to the city, Mom mentioned casually. They're expecting a baby soon, and they're struggling a bit financially. Things aren't going so well for them back in their hometown. Megan and Jack, both in their early 30s, had always stumbled from one difficult situation to another. They weren't exactly broke, but they definitely weren't thriving either. The news of Megan's pregnancy added another layer of complexity to their situation. I nodded, assuming they'd find their own place nearby. What I didn't expect was my mom sitting me down a few days later to announce, "We've invited Megan and Jack to stay with us for a while until they get back on their feet." Her tone was innocent, as if this was a minor detail. I sort of nodded along, thinking, yeah, whatever. I assumed they'd stay briefly before finding their own place. My parents didn't ask if I was okay with this. They just told me after they'd already welcomed them. A week later, my sister and her husband arrived with suitcases in hand, acting like this was a permanent arrangement. I was still processing everything when they walked through the door. Now I had 2 more people to feed and provide for, and the anxiety was already building. No one had even asked for my approval. Don't get me wrong, I love my sister. But Megan has always been the type to land in difficult situations and expect others to bail her out. She's not the most responsible person in the world. And Jack, while decent enough, has this entitled attitude that rubs me the wrong way. He naturally expects special treatment from everyone around him. Within days of moving in, Megan started making comments that bothered me. "This place is so big, it must be hard for you to clean all by yourself," she'd say. Or, "We're going to need lots of space once the baby arrives. I can't wait until the baby's here. We'll need room for all the baby stuff." I didn't think much of it at first. But then came the bombshell. One evening after I'd finished a long day of work, Megan and Jack approached me for a talk. "So we've been thinking," Megan said calmly, "it would make more sense for us to take the master bedroom." I stared at her in disbelief. "We need more space," Jack stated firmly. "The baby's going to need space, and your room has the walk-in closet and private bathroom." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My name was on the house. I paid for all the meals and had been helping the entire family without asking for anything in return. And here they were asking me to give up my own bedroom. "Why don't you just take the spare room?" I suggested, trying to stay calm. "It's plenty big and already set up for guests." "But that room doesn't have a walk-in closet," Megan protested. "And the baby needs space." I looked at them for a few seconds, struggling to remain composed. "I'm not giving up my room," I said firmly. Jack seemed shocked that I wasn't simply giving in. Megan looked offended, and I knew this wasn't going to end well. In the days that followed, I noticed how comfortable Megan and Jack had made themselves, too comfortable. Their belongings were scattered throughout the living room, their shoes kicked off by the couch, and Megan was already discussing where she'd put all the baby gear as if the house were hers. Then one day, I had to go into the office for meetings I couldn't miss. When I returned home around lunchtime, I found my belongings piled in the hallway. My clothes were heaped on the floor, and my computer monitor was sitting there disconnected, as if someone was in the middle of moving it. My heart racing, I rushed to my bedroom to find Megan standing in the middle of the room, packing up the last of my possessions. "Oh hey," she said casually as I entered. "I was just finishing up. What the hell are you doing?" I shouted, probably louder than I intended. She acted completely calm, as if this was perfectly normal. "Your mom said we could start moving our stuff in here. The baby's coming soon, and we need the space." I could feel my blood boiling. My mother thought it was okay to let Megan and Jack take my room without even asking me first. "No," I said firmly, entering the room. "You're not moving into my room. I already told you guys to take the guest room." "The guest room is too small for the baby," Megan argued, crossing her arms and giving me a look as if I were the one being unreasonable. "And there's no closet. We need more space." "I'm the one paying the mortgage," I snapped. "I'm the one who's been paying for everything in this house. You and Jack aren't even contributing anything. If you need more space, you're welcome to find your own place." By now, I was furious, and I could see Megan was getting irritated too. But she didn't back down. "Your mom said it was fine," she insisted, as if that settled everything. That did it. I stormed out, grabbed my phone, and called my mother, who wasn't even home at the time. "Mom, did you tell Megan and Jack they could move into my room?" I demanded as soon as she answered. There was a long pause on the other end. "Well, I thought it would be the best solution," she finally replied. "They need the space, and you already have the office. It's not like you're using the room for much." "Are you serious right now?" I exploded. "I pay the mortgage. I pay for all the groceries. I pay all the bills. And you think it's okay for Megan and Jack to just take over my room?" My mother tried to calm me down, saying it wasn't a big deal and that we were all family, but I was done listening. "I'm not giving them my room," I declared. "If they don't move their stuff out, they're going to need to find another place to stay." Jack walked in at that moment. "You're seriously going to throw us out with a baby on the way?" he challenged, looking furious. "What's going on is your wife thinks she can just take over my room without even asking," I fired back. "And I'm telling you both right now, it's not happening. You can either stay in the guest room or you can leave." Jack wasn't happy about it. He started lecturing me about how important family is and how I should be willing to make sacrifices for them. "Sacrifices?" I shouted. "I'm already paying for this entire house. What are you guys contributing?" "Nothing. And now you think you can just walk in and take over?" The argument got pretty heated, and it was clear neither side was going to back down. My mother tried to call me back, but I ignored her attempts. Tom went on about how unfair I was being, how they had a baby on the way, and how families should stick together during hard times. Megan stormed out, slamming the door behind her, while Jack just stood there, glaring at me as if I were the villain. "You have until the end of the day to move your belongings out of my room," I told them. "If you don't, I'll do it for you." I spent the rest of the day in my office trying to cool off. I wasn't going to let them walk all over me in my own home, especially when I was the one paying for everything. I knew if I went back out there, it would just turn into another fight. Deep down, I knew this was just the beginning. They weren't going to back down, and I suspected my mother would get involved again. But I wasn't about to give in either. Not this time. The next day, I kept to myself. I wasn't looking for more drama. To be honest, I was still fuming about how things had gone down. I worked in my office most of the day, trying to act normal, but I could feel the tension in the air. By dinner time, everyone was avoiding each other and the elephant in the room. I could live with Megan and Jack staying in the guest room as long as they didn't cause any more problems. But then something happened that pushed me over the edge. That evening when I went to the kitchen for dinner, I found the refrigerator nearly empty. Food I'd bought just 2 days earlier was gone. The freezer was the same. Obviously, my parents didn't eat like that, and neither did I. It had to be Megan and Jack. I was already upset, but I tried to ignore it. "I'd just get more groceries tomorrow." But it wasn't just about the food. My mother entered the kitchen without making eye contact. When I sat down to eat, I noticed she was quietly preparing plates for everyone else, Tom, Megan, my father, and herself, but not for me. At first, I thought she'd forgotten, so I waited. She finished serving everyone else, then sat down herself. I could feel my anger building again as I watched them all start eating. It was like they were punishing me for standing up for myself. "You didn't make me a plate," I said to my mother, trying to stay calm. She barely looked at me. "You don't want to help the family, you don't eat with the family," she said casually, as if commenting on the weather. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Excuse me? I pay for everything here, the groceries, the mortgage, and now I'm being iced out?" My father just sighed and continued eating as if nothing was happening. Megan and Jack sat there with smug expressions, as if they'd won some power play. Megan even smiled at me as I walked past. I couldn't take it anymore. I wasn't about to be treated like a stranger in the house I paid for. I slammed the refrigerator door shut and stormed out of the kitchen. I went straight to my room, grabbed my laptop, and started looking up eviction notices. If they wanted to disrespect me, they could find somewhere else to live. I'd had enough. I wasn't running a free hotel service. Within an hour, I had the paperwork done. I printed 2 copies, one for my parents and one for Megan and Jack. I felt uncomfortable about evicting my own family, but they had crossed the line. For weeks, they'd been disrespecting me, acting like the house belonged to them, and now they were freezing me out because I wouldn't go along with their ridiculous demands. I walked into the living room where everyone was sitting and acting as if nothing was wrong. I handed them the papers without saying a word. If you're not out by tomorrow, I told Megan and Jack, I'm calling the police. Jack's face turned white. You can't be serious. I am serious, I replied calmly. Jack stood up and glared at me, but I stood my ground. I was bigger than him, so I wasn't intimidated by his little tantrum. We're family, he said through clenched teeth. You can't just throw us out. I'm the one who pays for this house, I countered, stepping closer. Not you, not Megan, and not Mom and Dad. If you don't want to be respectful, you don't get to stay here. Megan, of course, started crying, as if that would change anything. I'm pregnant, and you're kicking us out? What kind of brother are you? I'm the brother who's been paying for everything while you two take advantage of me, I replied. Jack looked like he wanted to argue more, but I could see the realization sinking in. You have 24 hours, I told them. That's more than generous. My mother, who had been sitting there silently the whole time, finally spoke up. You can't do this, honey. They're your sister and brother-in-law. This is family. I've already done it, I said, pointing to the eviction notice she was holding. You have 30 days to find somewhere else. If you haven't left by then, I'll take legal action. The room fell silent after that. My father sat there staring at the table without saying anything, as if he didn't know what to do. My mother appeared to be on the verge of tears, but I refused to back down. This wasn't about being nice anymore. It was about standing up for myself and refusing to let them walk all over me. I went back to my room, locked the door, sat down at my desk, and took a deep breath. I'd just evicted my own family, something I never imagined I'd have to do, but it felt right. The house was eerily quiet for the rest of the evening. No one tried to challenge me. No one came to my door. I guess they all realized I wasn't messing around anymore. That night, I got the best sleep I'd had in weeks. If they couldn't respect me, they didn't deserve to be here. The next morning, I woke up and lay there for a few minutes staring at the ceiling. Today was the deadline for Megan and Jack. They had 24 hours. Strangely, I wasn't angry anymore. I had made my decision about what needed to happen, and now it was just about following through. When I got up and went to the kitchen, I could tell something had changed. The atmosphere was calmer, as if something significant was about to happen. Since no one was in the kitchen, I made my own breakfast. The refrigerator was pretty bare after Megan and Jack's last raid, but I managed with what was left. As I sat there eating, I thought about how quickly this situation had escalated. Things had been good not long ago. My mom and I got along, I was working and paying the bills, and everything was going smoothly. When Megan and Jack showed up, everything changed. A few hours later, I heard footsteps in the hallway. It's amazing how quickly things can change when people think they're entitled to things they haven't earned. It was my dad. He quietly came in, poured himself a cup of coffee, and sat across from me at the table. At first, he said nothing, just sipped his coffee and looked out the window. Megan and Jack are leaving today, he finally said. I didn't respond right away. I wasn't sure if he was reminding me of the deadline or informing me that they had decided to leave on their own. Either way, I nodded and continued eating. They don't have anywhere to go, he added quietly. They're going to stay at a motel for a while until they figure things out. Part of me felt bad, but most of me knew this had to happen. I had given them time. I had been too nice for too long. And if I didn't set boundaries now, they would continue to take advantage. I gave them an option, I replied calmly. They can stay in the guest room and respect my space, or they can leave. He didn't argue. He didn't try to make me feel guilty, which surprised me. He just nodded quietly and continued sipping his coffee. I think he recognized that I wasn't going to back down this time. There was no going back after what had happened. Around lunchtime, Megan and Jack started packing. I stayed in my room for most of it, not wanting to create another argument or hear any more passive-aggressive comments. Later, Jack knocked on my door. You're really going to let this happen? he demanded, his voice harsh. You're just going to kick us out like this? I crossed my arms and leaned against the doorframe. I gave you 24 hours. I told you what needed to happen. He shook his head, teeth clenched. We're family, man. You don't do this to your family. I took a deep breath, trying to stay cool. Families don't take advantage of each other. I'm not just kicking you out for no reason. You've been freeloading here for weeks without contributing anything. I've been paying the mortgage, the groceries, everything. And instead of being grateful, you tried to take my room and push me out of my own house. I'm not going to let that happen. Jack was silent for a few seconds. I could tell he was furious, but even though he didn't want to admit it, he knew I was right. So that's it, huh? He finally said. You're just throwing us out? You can find somewhere else to live, I replied, or you can stay in the guest room and actually respect me and my space. If you can't do that, then yeah, you're leaving. Jack glared at me before turning and walking away without another word. Megan and Jack left around mid-afternoon. I didn't watch them go. I wasn't expecting a tearful goodbye or anything. They packed up their car and left without saying anything to me. The house felt different after they left, quieter, less tense. My parents said little to me that day. They were still processing everything that had happened. My mother seemed sad, though she never said so directly. Maybe she finally realized that I wasn't the one who started all this. That evening, my mother knocked on my door. She came in, sat on the edge of my bed, and stared at the floor for a long time. They're gone, she said softly, and I nodded without speaking. I never thought it would come to this, she continued. Looking back, I see how much pressure we were putting on you. I felt some of my anger subsiding. It's not that I didn't want to help, I explained. But you guys treated me like I didn't matter, like my needs and my space weren't important. She sighed and nodded. We sat in silence for a few minutes. You're right, she admitted. We should have seen it sooner. I don't want you and Dad to leave, I told her, breaking the silence. But if things don't change, I can't live like this. She nodded again and slowly stood up. We'll sort it out, she promised. Things will be different, I promise. As she left the room, I felt a strange mix of relief and exhaustion. The situation with Megan and Jack was resolved, but my relationship with my parents still needed work. Though I knew it wouldn't be easy, it seemed like they were finally willing to listen. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe again. The house was quiet, and the anxiety that had been hanging over everything had lifted. At least I had my space back. It wasn't a perfect solution, but most importantly, I had regained my self-respect. Looking back, I realized that sometimes you have to make difficult decisions to protect yourself, even if it means standing up to family. It's not about being selfish, it's about setting boundaries and demanding the respect you deserve. As I sat in my room, finally alone and at peace, I couldn't help but feel proud. I'm not sure what the future holds for my relationships with Megan, Jack, or my parents, but I know one thing for certain. I will never let anyone, family or not, take advantage of me again. I had stood up for myself, spoken my truth, and taken back control of my life. It wasn't pretty or easy, but it was necessary. And as I drifted off to sleep that night, I knew that whatever challenges tomorrow might bring, I was ready to face them head on, with a new strength and self-respect that no one could take away.